Thanks everyone for coming for the genre discovery today. And we have our two amazing guests here, Anika and Martina. Please welcome them. And we are talking with them about how to develop an artist and how to promote them on an international level. And they know a lot of this, and we're gonna uncover some hopefully interesting trends and tips and tricks and some personal judgment from their career, how things might or might not work out. So I guess, yeah, there's never a recipe, as you know, for anything, especially for success. But you've seen a few things happen, so maybe you have some takeaway. You know, what are good things to do and what are not. So please, could you first tell a few things about what you do? You're from Bella Union, the label, and explain what's happening there with your job and what are the things that you look after on a daily basis.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Anika and I work at Bella Union. I've been there for 15 years now. The label was founded in 1997 by Simon Raymond, who is the bass player in a band called the Cocteau Twins. So he comes from a musical background and he started the label as that band was sort of ending, with the vision of creating a label that he would want to be signed to. And I joined the label in 2010. I actually moved to London. I'm from Kent. It's not a very interesting place, but I moved to London and I moved to study, and I hated university. I went maybe like a handful of times and I was like, it's amazing that they've given me this loan to study, but I don't have to use it to study. I used it to buy gig tickets. I just went to as many gigs as I possibly could and didn't really think, I guess in a quite like naive 18-year-old way, had no vision of what that would mean for my future. But by Christmas, I stopped going to university. You start school in September, and by Christmas I was like, nah, I hate this. But I didn't unenroll, I kept getting the loan. And I used it to go to all these gigs. And going to the gigs, I met my boss, Simon, and he was just like, you're at all of these gigs, why are you here? You must work in the music industry. I was like, no, I just love it. And we became friends, and he learned that I needed a job because I was imminently about to run out of my student loan, and he offered for me to come work at the label. And it was actually, I did a panel with him a couple of years ago, and he reminded me that I actually turned him down. I didn't remember this because 15 years has gone by and now it's just such a part of my life. But apparently I said no because I wanted to just work on my own projects, because I was promoting bands and like taking lots of photos, doing lots of illustration projects. And he bargained with me that I could come work at the label, just work in the office, do bits and pieces, and do whatever I want alongside it. So I said, okay. And over time, my role developed more into a project manager, A&R. And I look after, at the moment, the whole roster. There used to be 2 project managers. Now it's just me. So I do a lot of coordinating and planning and strategy and work directly with the artists. Which
Can you name drop some artists you work with?
So the big ones, and if you don't know these ones, you definitely won't know any of the other ones. The big ones are Beach House, Father John Misty, Spiritualized, Dirty Three, John Grant, Ezra Furman, Susanna Sunfor. And then we work with loads of smaller, developing, newer artists as well.
Okay, thank you. Martina, please.
Hi, hello everyone. Really glad to be here in Budapest, the pretty city of Budapest. We really like to come from Zagreb here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm from Yamat Radio. I don't know if maybe anybody heard about Yamat Radio in this region. We do have a lot of listeners from around the world, not just in Europe, not just in Croatia. I've been in radio business, more than a decade now. And it's a decade that I started alongside my unfortunately late founders of the radio 10 years ago. So Yamat Radio is in his 10th year of doing program. And I'm there from the beginning, was in radio industry. I started during college. It was a little bit different story. I really studied something that I liked, and it's communications. So it was natural for me to come to radio, since I like to talk and I like to listen to music. and started as a journalist from the beginning, which was great experience because you learn how to develop a story, how to search for a story. You know, it gives you confidence to do that. And then naturally, after first year doing journalism in Yamat, I started being on air as a radio host. I'm great to my, founders because they recognize that in me, and maybe it was natural because I really like music. Since I was this age and small, I was singing in choirs, and music is something that I really wanted to do professionally, but I didn't go to school to do it. My parents didn't send me to music school. This is why I asked them today, why didn't you do that? I would really like to make music. And then the radio came naturally because, music has been a part of my life, my whole life. And I really appreciate what I do because we're like the gatekeepers, and we had this great chance to do a job where you are like playing the music that you really like. And as you mentioned with the Simon and your story, the founders, the idea of the Yamat radio was to listen to the radio they wanted to listen to, themselves. And we were a big change in the radio industry in Croatia. Because up to that point, you didn't had like radio started from scratch. You have this national radio station. There were, current formatted radio, which came in 2000s, and you didn't have, a radio station that can place somebody like Father John Misty, and this is what they wanted to do. Yeah.
Thanks for that. How come the radio is being Croatian radio listened from, many places of the globe?
Well, our people, they're living outside, and because my founders of the radio were working on the 101 radio, that was a youth radio, really popular in Yugoslavia during 80s, and they had a pretty big fan base, So when they ended up their story on Radio 101, there was like this hall in radio program for like about 10 years because they were nowhere. And then they came back around 2013-14 on the radio that I was working before, and then they got this idea: let's do radio that we did once before. So, but following the trends, but still doing it the same way they did it like 30 years ago. This approach to the listener that is one-on-one, that it's not formatted, that you have the story, that you're talking about the music with passion, like in old days, and some radio stations still do that. So yeah, we have like this big fan base, and when we started in 2015, everybody were like, who moved from Croatia, contacted us from around the world, like, oh my God, you guys are starting the radio. This is so great. We're having our voice again live on air, And this is how it spreaded. And I think the quality of our program is something that people from around in Slovenia, I don't know if it's in Hungary, in Bosnia, in Serbia, people know us already, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So when preparing for this talk, I was trying to find, common grounds where Hungary is a small country, what kind of similarities or references you can find maybe with other countries or nations you work with. But then I thought that we probably also should look at the bigger context when you look at the world and the music industry in the world and the culture and how people listen or not listen to music and things beyond that. So it would be great to approach this development and promotion from this aspect as well, like where the world is going and how stories of artists and songs can actually find their way to fans and people. So I'll be curious to hear your takes on it. But to start with an actual question as well. And this also starts with just a quick story that a friend of mine, he's been an old musician, found me after a few years that he just made an amazing album, amazing musicians. They haven't put out anything on any of the socials. How could he, what kind of labels could he reach out to? And he listed a few, and he actually, now I remember, he listed Bella Union as well. And I told him that I don't know anyone there, so I can't help you. But even if I did, so I guess it's not really the way anymore, to keep on sending like cold emails to labels and wait for something. But I was wondering, so a label like Bella Union, for example, if you look at an artist career, let's say starting with hitting the first note to, I don't know, selling out stadiums around the world. So when do you like to actually step in that spectrum? Because at the beginning it's too early. At the end it's too late already for a label, because they can do without that as well in a way.
Yeah.
So where do you step in?
I mean,
ideally?
We actually step in at every single step of that way. Like we have bands on the label that are releasing their first EPs and their first singles, haven't released an album yet. And then we also started working with artists like Spiritualized relatively late in his journey. Or we work with the Flaming Lips. They're on Warner for everywhere else in the world but Europe, which is with us. So yeah, I feel like there's a sort of joy that you can get when you work with a band from the beginning and you watch them do amazing things. So an example I can give is I work with a Korean band called Jambinai. They were introduced to us by James Miner, who did the music programming for South by Southwest for many years. And he saw this band and he was like, they're amazing. And we signed them 10 years ago. And I remember being like, what is this Korean band that we've signed? Like, I know nothing about how it works in Korea. And it's been a huge education. And I've been to Korea many times now. And they've got an excellent manager and booking agent. But when we started working with them, it was introducing them to a whole new audience and bringing them to Europe for the first time. And just a month ago, I saw them perform at the Barbican, which it's not a huge venue, but it is a big venue. It's 1,800 capacity with London Contemporary Orchestra. So it sounded insane. Like, it sounded huge. They're kind of a sort of post-rock, mostly instrumental band that use like traditional Korean instruments as well as like distorted guitars, and it's quite not the obvious pairing for combination with the London Contemporary Orchestra, but it was insane. And I took two friends of mine that had never heard of the band, knew nothing about the band, and they were completely blown away. I felt really proud, like, to have gone on this journey with them. And you get to be there and see all of the highs and the lows, and that's really fun.
Could you give us a little snapshot maybe into the decision-making process that goes into, looking at a band and seeing whether you should work with them or not? Like, do you do it actively or reactively most of the time? Actively you go out and look for new acts. So how do you balance that with the resources you have?
We're a really small team. There's only 4 of us that work at the label, so you can imagine that we all do more than one job. Because we're a small label, we're not, we don't have like a signing process the way that a Universal or a Warner will have. A lot of it is just about right time, right place, good connection, feeling like we could work together, and we both want to. I think one thing that I really love about my boss is he's like in his 60s now, and he is the most excited person about music you could ever meet. Like, if you go to a gig and you're like, where's Simon? And you just see his bald head bobbing around at the front of this, like right at the front, as far away from the back as, and you're just like, oh, there's Simon. He loves it, and he loves signing bands, and that's something that I really love about him. But it does mean that there's absolutely no signing policy. There's no genre. It's just like a mixture of things that we like. And
or it just comes in a day, I just signed 5 new bands. Can you build them, please?
I mean, there have been times where it's been like, Simon, you need to slow down because there's not enough of us to do this much. But I think it comes from such a joyous place, and it's what has made us the label that we are. I think at the minute, the music industry is in such a difficult place, and it's, in the time that I've been working at the label, the hardest time ever. So we've had to slow down so that we can plan more carefully, and we're not just reacting to things that are happening. So we have a bit of space, and it's hard. It's been hard, but...
Could you maybe, just build the framework of what is the hard thing? Like, what are the hardest for you as a label?
I just think that there's just so much media right now. There's in terms of like your options for how you spend an evening, you could do so many things, and obviously one of them is listen to music, but you could also watch Netflix, you could text your friends, you could scroll on social media. It seems like we're in like a global recession. People don't have disposable income to buy vinyl. The cost of manufacturing vinyl is so much. The cost of promoting music is so much. Media is dying. Like, there's lots of challenges, which ultimately will hopefully pop us out into a better place in time. But at the minute, we're in this moment of transition that's really challenging.
And where do you place radio in this landscape?
Interesting that Anika mentioned this. Now that you say this, it's difficult time, to promote music, to, produce vinyls and so on. I think this is a great time where radio is coming in again, because it's cheap. Like, you send us a song and I play it, and it's a free program to play everything, at least at Yamat Radio. So I think it's a perfect time, when you mentioned slow down, to come back to something that we used to do before, like listen to the radio, because it's like the best and simplest way to promote some music and some band, if it is the way that we do it, like, this old way where you have this DJ radio selector that is going to see your album or maybe hear it in amongst whole mails and streaming platforms and so. And if he or she feels it, she's going to, make that loud and clear on air. It's something that I do that way. If I really like it, I mean, really, really like it, but if I like it, for the first listen, I'm seriously going to mention to my listeners, like, look, listen to this song. This is such a cool band. Or maybe I heard somebody at a festival, or maybe I heard some band tonight in Budapest. And this is something that I'm going to, to mention on air to my public. So I think it's a interesting time for the radio. It's not easy also, because we radio selectors and music editors, we are like filled with emails, with channels, with streaming platforms. You don't know where to look first. Like, do I go to Spotify to listen to something? Lately not. Do I go to Bandcamp, which I really like for, independent artists and labels. I really appreciate that platform. And then I can buy some, vinyl or CD. Or do you want to watch movies, or do you want to listen to music again and again? So it's really hard. It's a lot of music going on. And there's a lot of good quality made music.
And are you working on, or what are your strategies? Because I'm sure you're working on it, to drive traffic to the radio. Are you using socials to do that?
Yes, we do use socials. Maybe we're not on TikTok. Maybe we should be. We are like old. We are like on Instagram and Facebook, and we do that also. But I think the most part of it is sales stream and online stream of the radio program and FM. And the thing that connected us to smaller artists is us being present live from other showcase festivals and traveling to other cities. So we've been a few years back here in Budapest. So whenever we come in some place, Yamat Radio, we're always researching, the local community and local music also. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned you really want to go to Waves to get some vinyls.
Yes, I've been to Budapest a few times, and I'm always searching for a good record shop, and the Wave is one of them. And I cannot remember, I think it was some Prince vinyl last time I got. Yeah, I don't have, the whole discography of Prince, so I bought something last time.
And when you look at new artists and how they develop and you come across them at a certain point, do you see things that are working, that it's good to focus on for an artist, where they put the most of their effort, or how they should prioritize? Do you have any, I don't know, maybe starting with you, some good ideas or strategies for that?
I think having a healthy sense of ambition, like knowing that you are at whatever stage you are and accepting that and understanding the steps to get to the next stage. And I think that's really important, to just be really honest on that. I think being really good communicators is really important, because actually I was sort of thinking about this the other day. I was like, my job is just communicating. Obviously, there's more to it than just that, but what it comes down to is being able to, for me, connect with the artists. And for the artists, that goes both ways. You should also be able to connect with the people that you work with, and understand what they're doing for you as well is really important, because if you are saying, I want to get signed to a record label, but you don't actually understand what a record label does, your goals maybe are not realistic, you know? You might have ideas of what they're going to do for you that are not what labels actually do. So I think being able to communicate and being really honest and being able to think slightly strategically, and if you can't do that, being able to bring in someone that can, like a manager, having a booking agent, bringing a team on board, that's really helpful as well.
And for the artists who have a hard time finding a label, let's say, who has already a good coverage of socials and PR and radios and that, how far do you think they should push it to find a label, and when should they step out and do it on their own?
I mean, don't hold yourself up by waiting for a label. Obviously, if you've made a record you're really proud of and you've got a bit of a team around you and you want to release it on a record, by all means send it round to labels and make sure you give it its best shot. But if that process is starting to drag on and you're getting to the point where the album's starting to feel a bit old to you, like, it's so important to feel excited about this music that you've created and ready to release it. I've definitely known friends who have made records and then a year later, you know, they've been waiting for a label to put it out and it hasn't happened, and then they're not so excited about the music anymore, feel really downbeat about the whole process. Might be worth considering, can I do this myself? And if I can, who do I need to help me on that? So I think stay excited about it. Make sure you've got enough momentum that it feels good. You don't want to get to a point where you're starting to feel like it's a bit of a chore.
Okay. Martina, do you have...
Yes. Anika mentioned some good points. You know, like your music, your own music, exactly that, you know. Maybe the radio is not going to play it in first year, second year. Maybe, you know, the momentum comes with some the moment on social, you know, social media. And then after 3 years, oh, look, somebody is playing it on the radio. So give it time. Be patient. I think the patience is, like, you know, the value you should have. So make music that you're really going to like to sing and play after 10, 15, 20 years that you're proud of. And give it time. I think, you know, with a lot of artists and a lot of good artists and songs, it takes time. You know, when artists comes to me, local artists from Zagreb, and we are a small scene, so everybody can get me as a music editor of Yamat Radio. First of all, the first thing is be real also about, is this the radio station you should be played on? Like, be realistic. Is that radio station playing that kind of music, this genre? You know, do they go way too mainstream, or do they play some indie artists, some rock, pop? You know, research it. Don't just send it an email, you know, look, I have a song and please listen to it. Because I do still get a lot of emails, you know, with an artist that we are not gonna play. Most definitely we are not gonna play them because they're not, you know, in this, how should I put it, in this Yamat sound, you know, we call it Yamat sound. But so be realistic about what music are you playing and on which radio station to send it, and then give it time and be patient, yeah.
And do you use any, like, I don't know, digital tools where you submit your music you have, or is there any, like, practical things like that? No? What, people
No.
just pick it up and...
I mean, there's not really a specific way. I guess, like, I don't love getting cold emails. I think it's just always better if there's an initial meeting or something like that. That's always really helpful. If I am going to get an email that is completely cold, as in I've never met and we have no mutual connections or anything. It really, as you say, it absolutely needs to be well researched. It can't just be a blanket email that I can tell you've copied and pasted to every record label that you found on the internet. You know, I think I just received too many emails will just delete that email. But if it's written to me and I get the sense that this person has thought about this, then I'll always try and reply. But yeah, there's no like submissions thing on our website or anything like that.
Yeah, I have an example of an artist. He came like 2 days ago. I was on air doing morning program show, and he contacted me via inbox on Facebook, and he sent. Yeah, we're still a small scene, so you can do it, and maybe I read it, maybe I don't, but I read it right away. And hi, this is me from this band. We are a new Zagreb band, indie band. Can you listen to it? You know, feel free to tell us what you think and so on. So, okay, I've seen it in my inbox, and then I opened it, and then usually I take like 30 seconds of listening to some song and say, okay, this is good. You know, this is good. We're gonna play it. And immediately I've sent him like, okay, when can you come? You know, I want to, or can you record yourself? I can put it right away on my show if you send it to me. This is a power of the radio. We can be really fast. And he was like, oh, wow, okay, I work just like 2 streets away. I can come and give you my vinyl. And I said, oh, you already have a vinyl. Nice. Since we do have, Yamat recently moved and we have a really nice studio, so looking forward, feel free to come and see it in city center of Zagreb. And we do have, you know, whole lot of vinyls in the studio, but you can see from the street. And I said, okay, come and bring me vinyl. I'm gonna, you know, record you a little bit. And then I just put it, like he was 10 a.m., he was on the radio, and 10 and a half, I was like putting stuff on air, the song, and it was really good. And he was really thankful. So if you can have that approach here in Budapest, with some music selectors on the radio, DJs and music editors, do it.
I recently come across the story of an artist called Kara. It was mentioned in an article in Media Research, and she was a good example of how indie artists work these days. There was a video she made. It was called I invested $100,000 in my album and Spotify deleted it, something like that, and it got a lot of views. But the thing was that she made a video explaining what she did with that $100,000, which is a lot of money, and she did all the photography, all the producing. But she's a producer also, by the way, and step by step, she started having a lot of backlash from the digital companies. She distributed it to DistroKid, and first things popped up, like not all the artwork was visible on Spotify, let's say. Then eventually what happened was that the algorithms detected her song as somehow not aligned with their policies or something, and they just deleted the whole album basically from Spotify. I don't know, things like that happened to you, but all these just diverted her to do more and more on YouTube because that actually pays. And this video she did got now, I don't know, 500,000 views, and it made her more money in a week than Spotify or the others in a year. And it's just, the article went on just discussing this, how moving away from Spotify, what you also just mentioned, like you're not really digging there anymore, and just using maybe other mediums like YouTube sometimes can be more beneficial because people just see, you know, there's a more fan, musician, artist connection there. Do you experience any of this with the digital, battleground out there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see if Spotify still exists in a few years. I feel like this tide has turned finally, and nobody likes it. I don't think users like it. I don't think artists like it. Labels don't like it. No one really likes it. So I hope that something can take its place in the coming years. But I mean, whatever comes next, streaming is definitely here to stay, at least for the foreseeable. People love to stream music. It's very efficient for discovering things that you maybe don't feel ready to purchase a vinyl or purchase a CD yet. But there just needs to be a fairer model and a more sustainable model that works better for everyone involved rather than just Spotify.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, like, we all went from let's have everybody to listen to music, it's going to be cheap, but at what cost? In the end, it costs a lot. Yeah, the artists and the people who are involved in the music. Yeah, I also think Spotify is not going to work. I know Bandcamp is not in a great position also lately, which is like, if maybe a mixture of that too, but to have this physical thing about getting, getting the CD or getting music digital you can buy, getting the CD buy or vinyl to buy, and to actually have a platform that, money from buying goes to the artist directly. I mean, that should be that way if we are going digital all the way. And I think, again, analog is going to be popular, This is the thing, what I mentioned, like somebody bringing me the vinyl or sending me by post, CD or vinyl. I appreciate that lately more than, here's my Spotify profile, so listen to it. Yeah. And some few songs.
Yeah, and when it comes to like storytelling, what do you, how do you like to approach this? Or if you do it at all, but do you deal with artists and their stories and how they remain authentic, and what's the best way to bring that across, not just through the music?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like what I was saying earlier about being able to communicate with not just with us, with the artist, but then with us. So we understand the story and we understand what they're trying to put across. I think we can help facilitate the story getting out there, but if you can't tell us initially what you're trying to put across and what your aims are and where you see yourself fitting into the music world landscape, then it's really hard to decipher that without a two-way thing. That's where press people come in as well, like having a press person that really understands what it is that you want to do and the ideas behind the record is really important. Some really practical things are I commission bios, so we work with a couple different writers who I feel like do a really good job. The process of that is the artist will speak to them. I'll send the bio writer all of the music, a bit of info, some history, and then they'll set up an interview with the artist. They'll do a Zoom, or if they can meet in person, they'll meet in person. And then the writer will go away and write a bio. And I really value what a good writer can do, because it's really hard to write about yourself, and to have the vocabulary to describe music is really challenging. So having a good bio writer to hand is really important, because that becomes the basis of your press releases. And your press releases is what the journalists will read, and then that's what they'll write, how they'll begin their sort of writing about the artist. And another thing that I do that is like another practical tip is I ask the artist to write a track by track, where they go through and they tell me a bit about each song, the ideas behind it, recording it, what the song's about. That doesn't generally get used publicly, but at least it tells me more about the story and where this all came from. And then we also just have discussions about, like, what do you feel comfortable doing? Like, we're the kind of label that will never tell you to do anything that you don't want to do. So some artists are like, no, I'm well up for using social media and I've got loads of ideas about the way that I want to do a social campaign around this. Other artists are like, I hate it, please don't make me do it. And I'm like, I'm not going to make you do anything. So it's all about just tailoring a campaign specifically to the artist, and what works for one might not work for another. So yeah.
Okay. And do you work with labels a lot? Do you get pitched a lot?
Yes. I get pitched a lot, and independent labels also. Recently I have this one label, and they're really doing great artists that I really prefer. And we introduced from the last year, when we moved in our new space, live sessions. So I work directly with, labels. So if somebody is interesting to me and I hear not just me, my colleagues to play a lot, on air, then I decide. And yesterday I had a great show with some band called Beverly Brooks. Please listen to them. They're really super cool pop rockish Americana band, and they do in English and in Croatian. And then it all ends up with a live session if it's really good. So and if we really like it on our radio, yeah. So, and it's important to have a nice communication with your label if you're on some label, and this is how we connect, you know, artists to radio and to radio play, yeah.
And when you get bios, do you sense which one was written with ChatGPT or someone with a heart and mind and a lot of thought?
You know, I do read them. I mostly like to read. I prefer more about, you know, some song. What's the story behind the song? Not just if you know, if you're sending the song, please do a story about the song so we can interpret it more better. You know, but after that, it's really about the feeling that I connect with my public, so with my listeners. So I do appreciate if there is a nicely put press release, and I really hope it's a third party that wrote it. Yeah, I do get some ChatGPT, I would say, you know, press releases, but I take more time to listen to songs than to just read the story. I don't know. This is me personally, you know. Okay, there is a story. I'm going to read it, but let me hear it. If I don't hear it in your music, it can be a great story on a paper, but if it's not, you know, involved with the music or connecting with me, it's not going to happen. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, if you have any questions, please feel free. Do you? On chat. Okay. Yeah, and do you work with radios a lot? Like, is that still a medium that you prefer over, I don't know, other mediums? Or
Yeah, so we release music all over the world, and obviously every different territory has its various radio stations and ways of playing music on air. In the UK, our big sort of target station is BBC Six Music, and we work with radio pluggers. They're the same pluggers we've worked with for 20 years, so they're basically part of the label, and they're the middle people between us and the producers and the DJs. They know all of those guys. We obviously have our own connections with them as well over the years. So I used to go in a lot with our artists into the sessions. Like, I used to go to the BBC and sit in with Father John Misty or Laura Veers, or I'd go to Jules Holland. I haven't done that so much these days. I don't really have time, but yeah, we definitely really value radio because it is filled with humans who actually really like music and are present at shows and show up for us as a label. Whereas, yeah, I guess like some other forms of media can sometimes feel a little bit faceless, like Spotify, for example.
Yeah, and plus with radio nowadays it's merged with video, you know, so we do put out on our YouTube official site videos of live sessions so people can still watch it. We go live on stream and on air, you know, so it's a plus. Radio is changing and it's always somewhere here, you know, going with the flow, you know, with the digital era, and we are always looking into, you know, what to do to not just be streaming, you know, sound, then also picture nowadays. So it's a plus, yeah.
And when you talk to artists, what do you take away from them? Like, how do they feel in the current landscape?
You mean, are they excited to play on a radio live session? Yeah, yesterday, yeah. I had a band yesterday, they don't do gigs, not yet. This was like their first gig, especially on the radio. And I really said to them, like, I really hope you're gonna get some gigs, you know, after this, because we do have, let's say, Yamar has the power, you know, to put, to be a good recommendation and put that into your bio, you know. Once you're played on one radio that is maybe bigger here in Budapest or in Hungary, put that on your bio also, you know, that you played on the radio. I think it's a nice recommendation to have. And they were really excited, like, oh, you know, nobody listened to us before, even though they're like a band from 2016. So they're 10 years on the scene making music. They put out their third album like a few days ago. This is why they came to play. And lately, when they signed with an independent label, it's where the things started to change. So I think it's really important to have a nice label that is going to understand you, you know, that is good with communicating with radios. Like, for us, it's, that particular label that is really good with me, but I'm a good contact and she is a good contact, the label managers. So this is how they came by and, came to the radio to do live session. And they say it's pretty hard. They cannot get a gig. So I really hope this is the next step. If we meet in a year, maybe I'm going to come back with good news. Yeah.
And your artists, how do they feel these days?
I mean, it's a mixed bag of feelings, I think. I think everybody who is doing music for a living is grateful that that's something that they've been able to do. It's kind of a dream to be able to do something that you're passionate about as your day job. But I think also everybody's feeling the crunch of how hard it is releasing music. I think for us in the UK with Brexit and the way that that's changed our relationship with Europe and with the US and Trump and the tariffs importing vinyl into the US now, there's also just, increasingly it's so expensive to get a visa to play in the US. Travel is expensive, everything is expensive. It's challenging. So I think that's why we kind of need to stick together more than ever, is to get through this moment that we're having, this moment of change. And a lot of my friends are artists and they're all like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we working in the music? Why do we do music? But we do it because we love it.
And with all this,
tell them to come to Croatia, if not America. Yeah, we will gladly listen to them. Yeah.
And with all this fragmentation, do you feel like maybe also you focusing more on the local market and what's happening in the closer vicinity, or it's still global?
I think it's more global than ever. Like here I am from London in Budapest today and connecting with you guys. You're in Zagreb, you're from Budapest. It's about connecting with the people that are like-minded, like you find your people and they can be from anywhere, but you have to find them. Obviously local is important. I feel lucky to live in a city that is so culturally vibrant. I love London, and I moved there when I was 18, and there's been times where I've been confused with how can I live in a city that is so expensive and so difficult to live in. But after many years I see the reason that I live here is because there's so much amazing music, art, film. There's people doing such interesting things. There's amazing music venues. There's a cool music scene in London, and I love it. So I feel like local is always important. London's my home. That's where all of my friends are, and there are things that I can do there that are going to be really special. But I think a global community is also very important.
And maybe it's just subjective observation, but I just do have a feeling that like in the early 2000s, a lot more bands were eager to move to London because that was, one of the biggest hubs, and just launch their music career from there. And it just feels to me that maybe it's not the case anymore that much.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's like the great sort of philosophical tragedy of Brexit, is the idea of closing ourselves off to people coming to do things in London. But in spite of that, I do think London still is an amazing cultural place. Like there is nowhere else in Europe that is as diverse as London is. So you can go see music of all kinds of genres every single night of the week, and there is so much happening all of the time. But as for like people being able to move to London, it's really hard. I feel like the only reason I can still live there is because I've lived there for so long and I've managed to like sink my claws in, basically. But if I was 18 now, there's no way that I'd be able to live in London because it's just so expensive. And now I don't want to rant about the UK government, but we obviously have not valued the arts over time. We don't have investment into emerging artists the way I see in other countries. We don't have a good export program. We don't have good funds and grants to help artists. So we go on to this kind of very British thing about class and who gets the right to do these sorts of things. But that's a whole different topic that we won't go into.
Yeah, and what about the Balkans, if you look at it, because Croatia and Serbia and all, so they are quite connected culturally as well, and I think the music coming from there can travel to these countries in a much easier way. No?
Yeah, in last 10 years, thanks to the, HOTS, to the showcase festivals, Croatia has a first showcase festival, which I have to mention, it's Ship Festival, and this is a like a three-year, yeah, that was the third edition this year, and it's a really nice melting pot that I really like. I mean, I'm in this business like for a decade, and this is something I think we needed in the last few years for us to connect, to talk to you, to the people who organize HOTS, and it's really nice to talk with people in music business. So showcase festivals are a good thing that help Balkans, to spread the words about artists, and playing, some great venues in Serbia, North Macedonia, or maybe in Hungary, or maybe in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, and in Zagreb, and at the seaside in Šibenik and so. Yeah, so I think that's a good approach, festivals, showcase festivals, and these conferences, music conferences. There is a lot of music conferences going on in Croatia lately. And if you are in a position in a music business, go to it, go visit that, because it's really helping making the connections and talking to each other. I mean, the email, and phones and everything, just come and talk, yeah.
Yeah, just segueing a little bit into the topic after this, live shows and bookings. Maybe starting with you. Do you think, as you said, it's also a bit harder to go out of the UK, but also getting into the UK is harder. But when it comes to, let's say, the continental Europe, how do you see the gig and booking and live landscape from the perspective of your artists? Is it still healthy or not?
We do work with a lot of European artists, so people that live on the mainland, and we also work with PR and radio teams in various territories around Europe. So I think in terms of live, I definitely defer to the people that know their markets best. Each place is so different. I think for us, with our UK bands, it is really hard to create budgets that work. I think you need to be able to have a really good booking agent involved who can help create a schedule that actually makes sense financially.
Sorry to stop you, but in terms of strategy, like when to start looking for gigs, and how do you approach this question?
I think you need to be able to judge when might be too soon. It's really easy to go abroad and hemorrhage money, which is why you need to be patient and wait for the right moment when there's enough evidence that it makes sense to invest in that. I think, like I say, deferring to local people that we work with and our contacts in various territories to work out, like, is now a good time? Does this show offer or does this festival offer make sense? Like, I've not been to every festival in Europe. I've not been to a load of, and I don't know every single territory, which is why having people and our network that we can rely on who can help say, yes, absolutely, this is a really important venue, this show will be really good, the promoter's good, go. And obviously there are times where you've done it enough that you already know that yourself, but I think always having connections, which is, again, why showcase festivals and conferences and events like this are really good, because you get to meet people face to face, because there's nothing better than just being able to sit down with a person and have a quick chat. I think all of the emails and anonymity of online just washes away when you can just sit down and you're like, oh yeah, I remember when we had that conversation. And, so then, if I had an artist that was looking to come to Budapest, now I could email you. Or if you wanted to know if a venue in London was good, you could email me. And that's the way that I like to work.
And from the aspect of building an artist and the promotion, do you think it's a necessity to go and try and play shows abroad, or it's sort of a luxury also, or an investment?
I think it takes time. I think always focusing on what's the, like, if you had a tree, I guess go for the low-hanging fruit is what I'm trying to say. Is like the low-hanging fruit is the thing that's right in front of you. Grab it. And that's your local venue. Reach out to your local venue. Get really good at playing live in your local area. Don't, if I was a band in London and I was like, yeah, I've only played one show, but now I'm going to come to Budapest and do a show, maybe practice a bit before you do that, like get it down. So I think it is important, but I think timing is also super important.
Yeah. And what about Croatia and the neighboring countries? How's the live scene there?
I would really like someone from Bela Union to come to Croatia. We're going to talk about it, yeah. If I can help anyway as a, music editor at One Radio in Croatia, I would really like to help to bring some names to Croatia. Yeah, go small to go big. It's really that path that everybody should take. Like, send your music to local radio station, send it to us so we can play it. Give it firstly time to be on air for public to know you, to get to know you better, and then afterwards you're gonna go play some small gig, maybe in some small place, and then record that, and then send that, put that online on digital platforms and play it, and see what is going on. Has anybody reached you or not? And then maybe after some time, and after not the first album, the second one is the biggest problem, and then maybe the third album is going to be your luck, to go and come and play bigger venues. It's changed lately in late years with bigger names coming to Croatia, and I really like it. But we would like have a chance to listen to more artists. Yeah.
And in terms of the audience, do you think they're open enough to listen to Hungarian bands, let's say, and if you play them on the radio, would they be picking them up and be interested in, let's see them live?
Super hard to tell. I think yes, but I don't think a lot of people would come to that concert, because Yamat is the only radio, maybe the student radio that we have also, that is going to play that kind of artists, and that is a problem. We need more radios like us, seriously, to make you a bigger public, to go and chase the bigger venues. But I think what changed is that some artists that maybe we started playing in a few years can seriously come and do a gig in Zagreb. Yeah, I think we're at a good point for that, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions at this point? Because we're finishing this topic soon. No? Okay. Well, as closing remarks, do you have any good suggestions for these guys? where do you see your acts in like 5 years then, let's say? Do you have a good gut feeling where things are going?
I have not a single clue, I'm sorry. I feel like I can't see the future. I guess...
Well, you can make it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all I want is one of the ethos, one of the sort of founding sort of principles of the label, I think, is to have a good time. So I want our artists to have a good time. I want them to enjoy what they're doing. I want them to do things that make them happy. I want to connect with our artists. I love working with artists. I love connecting with people that make art. I love talking about, I'm a bit of a nerd. I like talking about, what gear are you using? I like hearing the stories. I love working with artists. So for me, I hope to have more of that. I hope to see more amazing shows. But as for like the wider music industry, I just hope that we can sort of move past some of the things like, like how Spotify doesn't pay artists, this sort of unsustainability of the current model. I hope that record stores can hang on in there and that people continue to buy vinyl. I hope that venues stay open, and that's my hope for the next 5 years.
Okay, and you stay positive.
You sound hopeful.
Stay positive.
Stay positive. We have to be full of hopes, because it is hard. Let's not lie to ourselves. It's really not easy. How should I put it? Like, be persistent, continue to do what you do and do it because you love it. This is something that helped me going through all these years, more than 10 years, and I really love the job that I do. And if you're passionate about something, you know, it's gonna give you back what you want. So just don't have big expectations. And what Anika mentioned, if you want to go big like Tommy Richmond, what I mentioned earlier at the table, big, sometimes it's really like perfect timing. Although I researched Tommy Richmond, and he was also on the scene like 10 years, just putting out small EPs. So perfect timing and a bit of luck, because TikTok and everything is unpredictable nowadays, and it's really hard to predict if you're going to make it or not. So yeah, just feel good about yourself and do what you love.
Okay, thank you very much for both of you for coming and sharing all these thoughts. And you can find them around here throughout the day. So I guess feel free to, have a chat with them and connect. And now we're gonna have a break, 5 minutes, and then continue with more bookings and live shows. So stay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.